everyone. Today we're going to learn a little bit more about social media, how to segment your market of who you're reaching out to, as well as figuring out what platforms work best for your agency and how to effectively use those platforms. My name is Brianna Dorn. I am the Executive Assistant at the Brookings Area United Way. You can see a little bit about my education as well as my experience here. I usually hold about 2 to 3 jobs at once and love to expand my horizons in my jobs. So I've listed out the main internships and positions I've held where I've solely focused on social media. I also do the social media for Brookings Area United Way, along with Heidi Gullickson, my boss, and a couple of our interns. So social media. I've listed out the definition of what the social network is. We all know what social media is, but sometimes it's nice to look at it written out of its purpose. It's a form of electronic communication, such as websites or microblogging or blogs itself. And it's where users can create online communities to share information, ideas, personal messages, and other content. So we're going to be talking about all of those online communities today, as well as what information you can share and how to word that. Social media is crucial to an agency. I've listed out 3 reasons of why they're so important. It's a lifeline to the world. So you are reaching people that are not just in the circle of friends or supporters that you have day in and day out contact with. It's an information exchange, so it's sharing your story of the programs that you have in your agency and the work that you're doing, and it's also free branding and marketing. And as nonprofits, we're always looking for ways to have something be free or at low cost to us. So first, I'm going to spend quite a bit of time talking about how to segment your market. It's basically figuring out who your audience is, who's looking at your platforms, who's engaging with your agency, and looking at either really capitalizing on that market or how to expand to other markets. So I'll talk about demographics, behavioral, psychographics, and geographics of a market. So starting with demographics, this is the widest type of market segmentation used. It's also the most common. If you don't want to dive too deep into market segmentation, you can basically use this as the foundation, and that should be enough. And then I'll still talk about the other ways that you can further segment your market. But demographics is the most basic way of figuring out who your audience is. It's by age, gender, family size, income, occupation, religion, race, nationality, any of those basic characteristics of someone. This is how you segment your market, just through demographics. Going a little bit further is behavioral. So this is when it really comes in handy when you're doing customized campaigns. And what I mean by that is when you have a certain maybe capital fundraising campaign or an event or just maybe a promotional campaign of a certain message or a new program. This is when you have your demographics of who your audience is, or figuring out what audience you want to tap into, and then you can target that audience better since demographics is so vague through behavioral statistics. So this is when you look at their likes and dislikes, and that can be just in anything, any likes and dislikes, as well as trends, and that can be in society or within a certain group, like maybe trends within a certain community of where they live, or society, or their generation, anything of that person individually, of their behavioral statistics, you can segment a little bit further. The third one is lifestyle. So this kind of goes with the likes and dislikes and the trends, but it's actually their active side of those likes and dislikes. So the lifestyle and psychographics is your activities, your hobbies, your opinions, anything that makes you you is psychographics. The fourth one is location. So this is the last one that really comes into play when you're using targeted ads, and that's mainly on Facebook, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But any ads that you want on social media that you pay for, or certain messaging that you use, even certain vernacular. That is really important in location, and it's all about knowing your community. So, certain phrases mean certain things in different areas, or maybe something is really special to Brookings, like a local shop, Nick's. When you say, oh, I'm going to Nick's, that's a local shop that is knowing your community, and that's really engaging with that consumer base if you want to talk about people in Brookings. If you're talking about people outside of Brookings, or talking to people outside of Brookings and you're talking about Nick's, you have to say Nick's Hamburger Shop and then give a little sentence about it. So with nonprofits, it's basically how you talk about your program. You might have to give more information, or you might have to just use different language when you are targeting your market. You can also go into generations. So I'm going to talk a little bit on the age portion of demographics, just because that's really going to tell you who is engaging with your brand as an agency and who you could engage with. This is a little bit easier way to segment your market. So first I'm going to talk about baby boomers and Gen X. As you can see, about 82% of baby boomers do belong to at least one social media site, and that's typically Facebook, but they could belong to a couple others, and they average about 27 hours per week online. So that's a lot of time that they're looking at a screen, and they're looking online at a screen. That can be on social media, that can be watching a show, maybe on Netflix or Hulu, or reading even like a magazine, an online magazine. I talked about how their biggest platform is Facebook, and you can see that 5% do belong to Twitter as well, and 1% to Instagram. So when you're thinking about expanding to different platforms, or what platforms you should be using, if this is the generation, or at least the majority of the generation that you want to target, know that if you are just on Facebook, that is absolutely fine. This generation also really likes multiple sources. So talking a little bit about their likes and dislikes, and their characteristics of this generation. So if you're targeting this audience, then you really want to make sure you have a reliable source and you have multiple sources. So if you are sharing in an awareness campaign, for example, and you want to talk about this one statistic or one problem that we have in our community, don't continually share from the same source, even if it is like a really reliable source. You want to make sure that you're sharing from as many reliable sources as possible, because they really like to cross-reference. And this is also a way that you can share articles instead of just creating original content. So you can always have that original content of that story or that statistics or whatever you message you want to share. But if you can also find another external source talking about the same thing, or a reliable person maybe in the community, or a celebrity or influencer sharing that same message, then that considered a different source as well. And this generation is 19% more likely to share than younger counterparts. So you can have a passive or active audience, and I'll talk about that a little bit more, those differences. But if you want to really get a message out there, if you want people to share a fact or help really engage in your campaign, this generation is going to be the most likely to share that information, especially if it is from multiple sources, like I talked about before. They share content that is relevant and meaningful, and they're not necessarily expecting to change minds. So what I mean by that is that they're going to share content that they personally connect with. Engaging in a nonprofit and engaging in charity is deeply personal, and this generation knows that better than anyone, really. And they're not necessarily expecting to change minds, so they're just sharing their opinion, even if they know that other people might not agree. They're not really looking to start a debate. They're not really looking to engage in a debate if one is started. They just want to share it because they said, yes, I agree with that. I'm going to share it and push it out to the world. But that is it. That's as far as they'll go. And they really enjoy slower videos, not flashing or fast content. So if you are having a slideshow or creating a video on your social media, they like that slower pace, that slower talking pace. They are willing to wait to get information, while other generations want that quick, snappy, give me the facts and I'll move on and I'll do what I want with those facts. So if you want to target the baby boomers or the Gen X, slow, meaningful content from multiple sources. All right, so the next big generation are millennials, is millennials or slash Gen Y. And a few characteristics about this group is that they're very optimistic, very positive, and they love to be collaborative. So they love working together. So if your messaging is optimistic in tone and talks about different collaborations that your nonprofit is doing or your programs are doing within the community and really sharing that impact, they love that. They're also very public. So they use Facebook to share their lives with relatives, families, and professional network sites. They use Instagram for everyday life and it cultures their brand. So by being public, if you really want to show like a volunteer opportunity or something that this generation can share of themselves doing and how they're engaging with your agency and with your brand, that is how you want to target this generation. They want to show how good, like the good that they're doing in their community. They want to show them volunteering or donating. They want to promote themselves of being good and engaging with your brand, and they also just want to show themselves on Instagram as well for everyday life, because if they want to create a brand of doing good in the community, of working hard, and whatever their brand is, that's what they're going to use Instagram for. They also really enjoy personalized content. So this can come into play on certain messaging that you have on social media, as well as how you interact with this generation. So in the comments or in private messaging, if they're asking a question or they, tagged your agency in a photo or a post, if you respond back to them and you are giving them that personalized interaction, not making it feel like a transaction of however they interact with your brand, but really engaging them on a personal level, that is how they're going to stay as a really great ambassador to your agency. They also have a case of FOMO, so fear of missing out. It's been talked about before, and not too many people use the word FOMO anymore, but it's still a really big characteristic of this generation. They want to showcase events with photos and videos, and they want to show that, and you want to show that they should get to know you. So you basically have to sell yourself pretty hard to this generation. They're gonna look at all the different things that you're involved in as an agency and all the work that you're doing to really be sold on engaging with your brand. So a great way to capitalize on this FOMO is whenever you have an event, whether it's a volunteer event or a gala or a meeting, anything that is of importance to your agency, make sure you take photos, make sure you get testimonies, make sure you get any videos that you think are important and show on social media. A great way to do this is using Facebook and a photo album, or creating like a recap video, kind of like a montage, to show millennials how fun your event was, how engaging it was, the impact that you've done, and they're gonna see that and say, oh my gosh, that looks like so much fun, or wow, I wish I was there, and they're going to make sure that they are there next time if you give them that information, if you market well to them. This group is also really big into social ambassadors and influencers. They like following them and they like being them. So a social ambassador is really on social media. It's a person. It can be organic or it can be paid. And I'll talk about a social ambassador program in a little bit. But that is who they reference the most. So they have their friends, and those can be influencers in their life. That's their reference group, but they also really like social media influencers. An example would be a celebrity, whether it's doing an ad about a certain event or a product, that can be an influencer, or it can just be someone who is gaining a lot of attention for whatever that person's brand is. So they like following them because that's where they get their information, and they also like being them. So this is how you can make sure that this generation is really active in your brand. And the last thing is that they want authenticity. So they trust their reference group the most. And their reference group is friends, family. It can be any of their committees or other groups that they're involved with, like in church, or if they're involved in a nonprofit already or a certain cause. Whatever their reference group is, that is who they trust. And that reference group can also include those influencers and social medias. And so if you want to target this group, make sure that they are good, that you have a good brand with all of their reference group as well. So that's when you want to make sure that every interaction with a millennial is really personalized and it really leaves a positive note with them. Because if a friend has a bad experience with a nonprofit or with a brand in general, and then their other friend mentions it, that first friend is going to make sure that they know the quote unquote true story of that nonprofit or of that brand. So if you mess up with one person for whatever reason, if that leaves too bad of a taste in their mouth, their friends are going to have that same taste. And so you want to make sure that you are good with everyone. All right, so the last generation that I'll talk about is going to be the Gen Z. So these are the up and coming kids. Some of them, I'm in this generation, so it can be kids who are out of college for a couple years. It can also be kids who are still in high school. It's really the kind of very young professionals. They also want personalized interactions. So the younger generations want those personalized interactions. They want to feel like a person, not a number, whether it's donating or volunteering or any engagement. And they're also very protective of privacy. So I talked about how millennials are the ones who will be public about, I'm volunteering here, I'm at this event, come check it out. Gen Zers will actually keep their activities more private. They like broadcasting, when something is after the fact, but they will not do it during. So for that to make more sense, I'll use an example of if they went to a big fundraising gala, they might share it in a text with some friends. They might post it on Facebook, maybe like one photo and a couple brief details about it, but they won't really be a good organic advertisement for that event. So they'll share it if they're personally involved, but not as often as millennials. However, they will share or will interact in posts and messaging that is relevant and meaningful to them, but maybe not just them. So it's not, hey, this is Tyler, our volunteer. They might not share that, but they will share, check out all of these volunteers who did such great work at this event, or come volunteer with us at this event. How they like that brand and they have had that experience before, but it's not them personally. That's the information that they'll share, if that makes a little bit more sense. This generation is also great at giving back feedback. So if you are starting a new program, whether it's a volunteer program, donor program, an affinity group, maybe a social ambassador program, this is a great generation to be that kind of guinea pig first round pick, because they will tell you whether they like something or not. They're very vocal about that, which is awesome because then you can make sure you perfect other programs to engage in those other generations. They're also the most socially diverse generation, so they are always looking at different ways to be diverse in their education, like their information sources, their friend groups. They love different backgrounds, different stories. They want to learn as much as they can about the world. They're definitely more of those, global citizen-minded people than just the local citizen. They love different messaging. They love just really trying out all the new trends, all the stories, anything you can think of. They want to be the most diverse. They also really want to be trendy, so they strive for the next greatest thing. They want something that's up and coming. So that's when it goes back to those, those new programs that you're starting. They want to be part of that first class. So if you have, a donor program where you really want to engage this generation, so you create this affinity group that they're ambassadors, but they're really big donors as well, and so they recruit, other donors of this generation. That's technically the next greatest thing, because then 5 years down the road, when this program is huge, the Gen Z donor program at whatever agency you are at, they can say, I was part of that. And that is what they share. It's after the fact, but they were part of it. All right. The next one is that they want visual content delivered fast. They love constant gratification. So how we talked about with the baby boomers, how they like slow videos and they can wait for the information. Gen Z is not about that. They are the complete opposite. They want that fast information. They want it quick, and they want it easily condensed down, because they want a ton of information, like we talked about. They like being socially diverse and having all of this different information from all these different sources, and they want to remember it. They want to attain that easily. So this is when you can use infographics. I'll talk about that a little bit. Also videos, anything where you can get them fast and snappy, that's what they want. And they use Instagram and Snapchat the most. Won't really go on Facebook. The only way that people in this generation use Facebook is when they're looking up a new business. It's more likely they'll go to Facebook than someone's website just to check out, their hours, or just do a quick overview of, is this business legitimate? Is it fun? Do I like the brand? But really, when they want to share something, when they like looking at the content and engaging with that content, that's typically on Instagram and Snapchat. And those are generations. About market segmentation and the different ways that you can really know your audience, as well as the different generations, which is another option to segment out your market. And we talk about this so much because you really want to make sure that you are engaging the right people. You could have the best posts in the world, the most creative content, this high professional video, but if you are not targeting the right people, then it's all a waste. It really is. It doesn't get any further than someone scrolling through on their timeline, and then they just keep scrolling past. You may get some followers, you may get some likes, but it's really not going to do what you want it to do. And that's why you spend so much time really knowing your market and then making sure that you are engaging them effectively. So knowing your market, you have to ask yourself a few questions of what platforms do you use? So what do you use right now out of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, the big long list that you can get when you Google what platforms do you use and who is featured in your photos. So this is really important of making sure that you are representative of everyone who could be engaging in your brand. And especially with that last generation that we talked about with Gen Z, they want to be the most socially diverse generation. And so that means that they want to see diversity in their messages that they get on their social media and with the brands that they want to engage with. So they want to see that diversity of age, of genders, of locations, of where people are interacting with your brand. And you want to make sure that you're engaging with the right generation, like we talked about before. So if you are wanting to engage millennials, but all of your photos that you use on your social media are of really young kids or baby boomers, they're not going to feel connected to your brand. And so you want to make sure that you are also featuring the right people in your photos, because when I am looking at a brand on social media, I want to see myself in that brand. So you can see a couple examples of United Way of the difference that we have, and just making sure that you're really cognizant of that in all of your posting. And what programs are you highlighting in your posts? So this is, again, just making sure that you are relevant to your audience and making sure that you are promoting the right causes or the right programs and right messages that the audience that you either want to target or that you are targeting right now is really relevant. And the last questions that you should ask yourself is, what type of post do they engage with? Are they passive or active? So I mentioned this a little bit earlier of passive or active audiences. And what I mean by that is, with passive, that is just someone who is scrolling on their timeline or just looking at photos, whatever platform they're on, and they may react in real life. Like if I see, a funny meme, I may laugh, but I may not click on that to either click on the link or to like or follow that brand. And so that's someone who's passive. So that's someone who's getting the messaging, but not really doing anything with it. And active are the people who are really engaging with that brand. And so they're liking the posts, they are answering the questions if you ask one, they are sharing. They're doing all of the call to actions that you want. And so to engage passive, you can still engage both of those audiences. To engage passive, that's when if you just want to get information out and you just want people to read it, they will read it, they're passive. Or watching videos, anything where you just want to get messaging out, the passive audience will still interact with. However, if you want to engage the active, or maybe turn some of those passive audience members to being active, that's when you can have those quick engagements, posts like polls or answering questions, where it's just a simple click and they're done. You can also get more active into like signing up for volunteers. You can say, click this link to sign up. That active audience is going to click that. Or if you give them a call to action of share this message, or like our page for your chance to be entered in a giveaway, anything like that, that is when you're really engaging those active audience members. So when you are thinking about, okay, who is my market, just look at these questions of what platforms do I use, and then making sure that they're the most relevant ones. And who is featured in your photos or in your messaging. What programs are you highlighting? Is it relevant? And then what type of post do they engage with? And what should I continue? And this also really helps in your social media planning, that I'll go into a little deeper in a little bit. Or you figure out how you want to segment your market and who you want to target and who is really going to be engaged with your brand. That's when you can start looking at what platforms you should utilize. I've listed a few of the most popular platforms. I mean, you can really find any of them out on the internet. You just have to Google social network programs and you're going to find a huge long list. But these are going to be the ones that you are going to utilize the most. Just keep in mind, even though that they are all listed out on this slide and you can find, however many else you want, that doesn't mean you have to be on every single platform. You definitely want to make sure that you are consistent in your messaging and in your posting and engagement. And you're also relevant. Like we said in the generations before, how some generations might not really be on Instagram or Pinterest, but they're on Facebook. So if you're only targeting that generation with that message, or just in general, that's your target audience that you want to start with on figuring out how to really engage with them, only focus on Facebook. So this is really just up to you. This entire presentation is just giving you all of the information that you may need, kind of scratching the surface, and then you deciding what would work best for your agency and your brand. So starting with Facebook. Facebook is a pretty common, it's the most common social network program. And I've listed out a couple of different features that you can utilize on that platform. So you can create, a business page, and you can have posts on that page. And with those posts, you can have text, you can have GIFs, you can have words on a picture, you can have videos and images, really anything you want, you can just post on that. There is also a feature of Facebook events, which I highly recommend for any events that you have. Just making a Facebook event really does promote that event so much more than a post could ever. There's also a marketplace, so that is more if you want to sell something, if you're looking for something for your office or for your program. That's just a feature of having a Facebook page. It can just be through your personal Facebook page, but definitely something to know about. And then two of the features, the add team members and watch parties, I'll talk about a little bit more. So adding team members, this is really handy when you want to put a face to your agency. So some agencies, this is not what you want to do. And others, if you are maybe starting a new program, when you're targeting a certain group that wants those personalized interactions, like what I talked about with the millennials and with Gen Z, how they want to be authentic. They want that authenticity from an agency and they want to put a face to that brand so that they can interact with that face. This is when you add those team members. So you can find it. It's a really new feature under the About page on your Facebook page, and you can link your business page to someone's personal page. So then you also have to make sure that if you are deciding to do that, that person's personal page is a well reflected version of your brand. Um, if it disagrees in any way, if their messaging is inconsistent, if they are posting about things that your agency does not agree with, even though that is their personal opinion, maybe not link their pages. But it's just something to consider. And then watch parties. So if you're posting videos, you have a couple different ways of posting a video on Facebook. You can post it and it publishes it and people can watch it. That's the most basic. You can also do a live video, and that's just what it means. It's just a live video through whatever device or camera you're using. And you can also save that live video and keep it on there as a post. So it doesn't just, or you can have it just go away after you're done being live. I suggest, depending on what the situation is, probably just keeping those videos. And so once you're done with the live video, just hitting save and it saves it as a post. And you can also create watch parties. So with this, um, when you post a video, you can choose to have it be a premiere. And so that is when it is an edited video, like if you were just to post one as a regular post, but it plays it on Facebook like it's a live video. And that's one way to create a watch party. And watch parties are really bridging that divide from an in person event to making it more accessible and universal where everyone can participate. So it's kind of like a virtual movie theater, really. Is what a watch party is. So you can have it be that premiere option, or if you have like a documentary, it's usually something longer, like a movie of some sort that you want everyone to watch. They can tune into this watch party that you create, and then you can all do like live commenting and everything on this watch party. So that's definitely something to consider if you're looking at having, a movie screening somewhere. If you're not getting the best numbers in person, but you think it's still really good quality, and you want more people to engage with it, it's definitely an option to have a watch party. With LinkedIn, these are mainly business to business interactions, or if you're looking for volunteers or employers, this is when you want to use LinkedIn. So it's definitely industry related. You can share articles, you can interact with other people, just like Facebook, but um, you're not going to really reach the audience of donors or um, people seeking help or looking to participate in your programs that you hold. So this is where if you have employers on LinkedIn, it's really nice to have that official business page because it helps the employers really, and it helps your business look more legitimate because it's just another version of you on the internet, and more sources are always good to have. And when an employee says, "Oh, I work for," like Brookings or United Way for example, and we didn't have a LinkedIn page, then it would just be on my page where I said, I'm an employee of United Way. It's just a blank profile photo. It's unlinked to anything, and it just has, my job description and then a couple of bullet points, whatever I want to put in my description. And there's always that possibility because it's very local. If we had a very local name and people didn't know United Way, the network, and then I tried to talk to someone else on LinkedIn about anything, about United Way in general, about recruiting them to work for us, any reason why I would use LinkedIn, and then they see that it's unlinked to my page, that there is no LinkedIn page, it just doesn't look as good as if you actually had an official page. So it's nice to just have that page. You don't really have to update it. You don't have to post it as much if you want. Maybe like once a month really is all the interaction you need on that. It just makes it look more legitimate. So next is, kind of went on a rant there. Next is Twitter. These are short posts. It's best way to connect to big names. So everyone pretty much knows what Twitter is. You can do a little bit more research into it if you don't understand the true purpose of it. But the best way to use this feature is to really connect with those big influencers. My best luck has been when I've retweeted someone's post or someone's tweet, or I have created my own tweet and then I use a specific hashtag or at someone and using their handle. I am more likely to get the attention of people that I would not on any other platform than I am on Twitter. Um, this is where like United Way Worldwide has retweeted some of our content, and they're these big audiences that I would never expect to look into our social media posts are really engaging with us. And then it gets your name out there further than just Brookings area, which can attract new donors. It can just, again, expand your network and make you a little bit bigger, have that bigger presence in the community. Next is Instagram. So this is mainly image based. It's not like Facebook, that's more content based. Um, but Instagram is where you can post an image and just on your page that you create. You can also do videos and you can do live videos as well. And uh, IGTV is a new feature that I'm not the most familiar with. I'm still trying to figure out. And what it is I think it's just a different way of posting videos. So you have those live videos and then you have stories, which is a post that lasts for 24 hours, and it's at the top when you pull up Instagram, it's all of the stories are at the top, and those are just quick things that you want to promote, that you don't necessarily want to make an entire post about, that you just want a lot of information to look at. It's that fast content that's being delivered. And IGTV is just another video format. So it's kind of like stories. I think it lasts longer, and it's almost like if you had a YouTube channel on Instagram. It's kind of weird. It's definitely something to explore. I'm just not the most familiar with it at this point. I would say if you are looking to expand on your platforms, Facebook is definitely the first one. Instagram would be the second one, and then Twitter would be the third. The rest of these are just if you want to explore and expand your social media platform. The last two, YouTube and Pinterest, is mainly used internally, I would say, more than as a promotion, but it's something to have a presence on. YouTube, it's super easy to just use it as a video library, to just have that storage of all these videos that you've made, upload them on YouTube. The public can still see them. You can promote the link in any way, but it's also easy to always have a link in an email blast on your website, to even embed it on your website, to just have those YouTube videos. It's just a super simple format to store all the videos that you make. And then Pinterest is something new that I've noticed some nonprofits nationwide and worldwide are starting to use a little bit more. I haven't done too much research on what their motivation is or their purpose, or how they're using Pinterest to promote their agency or their programs, but it's another way to promote your brand in general, of just the name, getting it out there and the work that you're doing. So if you put on any events, if you have any organization skills, you can look at these posts. Everyone, I'm sure, just goes on Pinterest to look at uh, different ways to organize markers or something like that. So you can definitely be one of those posters, or you can like and make a collection of those posts that you see. It's also for like crafts and ideas that more nonprofits are putting on. So if you have, maybe a program that works with kids and they create this really cute craft, and you're like, oh, I bet all nonprofits would love to have the instructions to this craft. That's a great way to be on Pinterest, and you post, the photos and the instructions with that. And you also get to claim that idea, kind of. You get to say, we, whatever your agency is, did this craft with this program in Brookings, South Dakota. And then more people anywhere around the world who's looking at Pinterest, who looks up like crafts for kids, could see that post and they could like it. And that's just growing your name. So those are the biggest platforms. Next, I'll kind of go over a few of some acronyms that you might come across and just explaining it a little bit more. So AMA is Ask Me Anything. This is really common on Reddit, which is another social media platform, but it can be, a Twitter thread. It can be on Facebook, really any way, even like a live video. It's just a way to engage your audience and turn, those passive people to active, like what we talked about. And when you say ask me anything, it's basically someone saying, hello, I'm a representative of this brand, um, of this company, and I am going to spend the next 5 minutes saying, ask me anything. So you can have prepared questions before of maybe like FAQs of different programs, and you answer those, and then people will live engage with you whenever you do this ask me anything. Make sure it's promoted well so people can engage with you that during that time or that day of the ask me anything. And it just answers questions that people may be thinking but didn't really want to ask you in person, or just thought of, whenever, and they can engage with you on the ask me anything. If you want to see how it's played out, a lot of celebrities do it. So you can just Google AMA or Ask Me Anything and watch a couple different Wired videos, or different threads of celebrities doing it. Bitly is just a website to shorten URLs. So you can just Google Bitly and put it in, and it will just shorten URLs, and it will turn the URL to a Bitly URL. And that's just an easy way to link to different long forms that you're using. A bio. So when someone says, on Instagram, you see it a lot of like more information in my bio or check out my bio. This is literally your biography. It's the short describer of a brand, event, organization, or person. So when you post on Twitter and you say, it may be about an event, and you say tickets on sale now, click the link in the bio, then that person who sees that post says, oh, I want tickets. They go to your page, they look at your bio, and in that bio is a link that you copy and paste in that section. And that's where you can use a bit.ly. And so they'll click that link, and that will take them off of Instagram, off of that platform, to whatever you link them to. So it could be your website, it could be that event, ticket information, anything you want. So when someone says, check out my bio, that's what that is. And that's what you can use that for. For likes, shares, followers, connections, anything like that, just make sure you match it to the platform. So you wouldn't say something like tweet me on Facebook or or anything like that. You would say, like us on Facebook, follow us on Facebook, share our post, and then connections are made on LinkedIn. You don't really connect with someone on Facebook, and you with Twitter and with Instagram, it's kind of the same. Of you can say, tweet at us, or you can say like follow us on Twitter, or like us on Instagram. And if you're unsure of what vernacular to use, you can Google it, or you can just look on your phone, and on that app, usually when you go to someone's page, it will say, click this button to follow, or click this button to like, or anything, and then you can just confirm it that way. For handle, that is just describing someone's username. So make sure that all of your social media platforms are using the same handle. So if you Google, for Brookings Area United Way, if you just Google SDBAUW or BAUW, that will pull up all of the social media sites for Brookings Area United Way, because we all have the same handle. It's just in your settings on any platform. And so when someone says, oh, I want to follow you on Facebook, or you say follow us on social media, you can just say follow us on social media at SDBAUW, and people will generally know what you mean. And they can always put in the search bar, Brookings Area United Way, but it's really easy to just do SDBAUW, and then they have connections to all of your platforms. The next two of reach and impressions. So this is just something that you will use as a metric in when you're looking at campaign or social media analytics. It's also just something that you might hear in webinars, or whenever you're researching what to post on social media. So reach is the number of individuals who, if I am on my phone and I see something on my Facebook timeline, I am reach. I am one. Impressions is number of times your content is displayed, and it's dependent on sources. So me, you've only reached one person, but I may see the same post 3 times because I went on Facebook 3 times throughout the day and I saw the same post. So you got 3 impressions, but you only reached one person. And so that is when it's important that you can kind of see which ones you want, and which ones you really want to track. Do you want impressions because you want the message to really sink in? It kind of goes back to, you have to thank a donor 6 or 7 times before they realize they are thanked. So that's when you're only reaching one donor, but you thanked that donor 6 times and you made 6 impressions on them, and then that message really sunk in. So that's where that kind of plays into reach and impressions. So the next slide is talking about knowing your brand. So the biggest thing when you are on social media or any marketing that you are doing for your agency is you want to make sure that you're consistent. You are well branded. When someone sees a logo, when they see a color, when they see your name, they know exactly what they're expecting. You see it in these major corporations, and it's just standard uh, in the industry to be consistent in your branding. Um, you want to have the same colors, the same text, and the same voice. So, what I mean by voice is that if you have multiple people managing your social media or creating your marketing, different people talk different ways. And you want to make sure that the same voice is coming through on that messaging, because then when someone is looking at your social media posts, they know that they're connecting with the same person. They feel that connection with the brand because the voice is always the same. And a way that you can do this is if you have multiple people doing your social media, is you can schedule and then you can draft posts on Facebook. So when you have a Facebook page, you have all those settings at the top and you can just kind of play around with it. And one of them is scheduling and drafting posts. So it's instead of just going on Facebook, typing out something and hitting post, and then it goes on your timeline right there, you can schedule it to go out later before, so someone has time to edit it. Or instead of scheduling it, you can just draft it, which is when someone, it's just like an email draft. You can look and you can kind of edit it so that the same person is having that final voice and that those final edits before they post it on your social media. It's also important to know your brand guidelines if you're an affiliate. So Brookings Air United Way is part of the large worldwide United Way network. And so we have a branding packet that we have to use. And you can kind of see it on the slide where you have our fonts and you have uh, our colors that we use. So this color sheet was actually given to us by United Way Worldwide. They push it out to all of their affiliates. So this isn't something that we created in-house, but you can see if we use the Pantone color, if we use CYK, if we use RGB, any of those, whatever program we're using, if we're uh, doing anything designing with color, then we need to use those colors to be consistent with our brand as Brookings Air United Way, as well as our brand as a United Way agent or United Way affiliate. So if you don't have this, if you're not an affiliate, then you can create your own branding. You can create your own brand guidelines. And I really do highly recommend this to just have as an agency, because this isn't just social media that you would use the brand guidelines for. It is all marketing. Any messaging that is coming out of your nonprofit needs to follow your brand guidelines that either you are given or you create. One fun way to do this is create a brand board. So it can be digital, but I kind of think of like a mood board. So when you were in middle school or high school or whenever you were doing this and you had an art project where you had to go through all these magazines and newspapers and you got a sheet of paper and you cut out everything and you created a board that represented yourself. Well, that's what a brand board is. It's the same thing as you have this board that you create, or digital, physical, whatever works best for you. And you have colors up there, you have images that represent it, you maybe have your mission statement, whatever you think represents your brand and your agency. It can be messy right away, and then you can organize it into a packet. Just throw it up on a board. So then you can really see these are the styles of, like the style of voice, this is the colors, anything of that sense. Okay, so now that you know where you want to post and you know your audience, so you're kind of figuring out what you want to say, um, this is just making sure that you're following the best guidelines and making of having it be the most effective and engaging content. So make sure that you keep any post on social media very brief, unless there are specific situations where you need to have a long post. If you're talking about, like if you're doing a big event recap, or if you are talking about an industry article that you're sharing, there are those special situations, but for the majority, you should keep it very brief. 65% of people will watch a video rather than read content. This is a general statistic, so you can look back at those generations slides before to see if that is representative of what you want to do. Otherwise, if you're just wanting to target all of them, you're not really doing any market segmentation at the moment, or until you can figure that out, you can follow the statistic of if you can create a quick video It can be a slideshow, it can be a narrated slideshow like what I'm doing right now. It can be whatever you want, just a quick video. They are more likely to watch that rather than read the same information because they can hear it, they can watch it, they're engaged, it's visually appealing, all of those reasons. When you post on Facebook, look at posting 40 characters or less because the biggest reason for that is that when you look at something on a computer, which is where you're most likely posting this and creating these posts, it's going to look different than when you look at it on a tablet or an iPad or your phone or any other way to access the internet. And so 40 characters or less making is what you'll really see on a mobile version of Facebook. They're always updating and changing it, but that's the best bet. Or if you have a long post, make sure that you have the most important information, whether it's a call to action, whether you're saying events on or tickets on sale, look at this link, anything like that, making sure that that is at the very top and that is under 40 characters. Twitter, best bet is 70 to 100 characters. You can definitely do more. I think it's up to 240, I want to say right now. Instagram, it's short to medium posts. So I would say there's no really character or word limit. It's just making sure that it's maybe 1 or 2 lines once you post it. And you can kind of see that when you're creating an Instagram post. And you want to use less than 3 hashtags, and 1 basic and 1 unique. So what I mean by that is that when you have a post, I mean, Instagram and Twitter are the places that you're going to be using hashtags the most. And you should have one that's basic that will connect you to a huge variety of hashtags. Or posts, should I say. So basic one for United Way would be Live United. It's our motto, our tagline is Live United. It's what all the United Ways in the entire world use. On any post, they say hashtag Live United. This could be something that you create if you're not an affiliate of, hashtag Stronger Together, hashtag High SD. That's South Dakota Tourism hashtag. So those are basic hashtags. And one should be unique. So, especially if you are doing different events or you're doing a certain fundraising or capital campaign, that's when you should have one hashtag be unique to that. So, when you search on Instagram, you search the hashtag, it will come up with all of those posts that are directly relevant to that campaign or to that event because it's linked through those hashtags. So that's just a way for you to keep track of everyone's posts. And when you tell people, oh, when you volunteer with us, use hashtag volunteer Brookings SD or anything like that, then you can search that and you can find all the posts that other people are engaging with, and that's how you can get those other shared content that you can repost. And that's when you can also connect to the different ambassadors of your brand. There are some exceptions when you go on Instagram. You see these posts and they have the paragraph or the caption, and then they have dot, dot, dot. It's literally like right down the line, and it says read more, and you click read more, and then there's a paragraph of hashtags. So you can do that if you want. That is basically used when you want to link to something bigger. So kind of like with Twitter, how you use a hashtag or use someone's handle to get their attention, that's what you can use on Instagram. So I wouldn't use it too much. I would just use it if you really want to connect and get this one post out. It's kind of like a way of boosting that post, like you would, when you pay on Facebook to boost a post. It's kind of like the free version of that on Instagram. The one thing with hashtags is make sure that they're linking to appropriate things. Because hashtags, you want to be funny with them, you want to be creative with them, and so you might say hashtag it's the hot out or anything like that because it's a hot summer day and you think, oh, that's so cute, like dog days of summer. But then when someone clicks on that hashtag, all of these posts that have used that hashtag is not representative of your brand. So just make sure that you can search on Instagram or you can search it on any social media platforms before you use a hashtag, making sure that it's connecting to appropriate photos and appropriate posts. For LinkedIn, there's really no way of being brief on that on there because you're usually sharing an industry idea or an article. So those are editorials. So you can be brief in your captions if you're reposting something, but that's when you can get a little bit longer. And the last thing is that you want to optimize your visuals. So check posting guides. I'll talk about Canva a little bit in a little bit. That is where you can design visuals that you can post. But what I mean by optimizing them is making sure that they're the right size and they're the right shape of whatever platform you're using. So if you're creating a Facebook banner, which is a really long rectangle, that's going to be a different resolution and a different pixel size than what you would use for an Instagram post or a profile photo, anything like that. So just making sure that you are using the best visuals, and you can get to know that by looking at Canva, which has templates, or you can just use Google and they have the information. Or on those social media sites specifically, if you dive deep enough into their settings or their FAQs, they usually have a list of whatever you may post on that website and the different sizes of those visuals. A great visual to use is an infographic. These were very trendy about 2 years or so ago, but it still is really informative. It's really easy to create once you get the hang of it, and it's a great way to show a lot of information at once. So infographics, you can see an example there that I created for Week of Impact, which was our campaign kickoff for United Way last year. They are a great way to stay brief but get the message across, and a great way to use statistics from reports as well. So you can see there's a lot of different statistics on that infographic, and that's what an infographic is you have all these facts or all of these stories, and you are giving it a visual to really make it digestible. It's also really easy to share and spread, just like any sort of image. People are more likely to look at an image or to watch a video than to read something. And so infographics is a way to transform that post that you may just type out to something visually appealing, and people will be more likely to look at it. And it's very easy to make on Canva. So that's that program that I mentioned earlier that I'll talk about a little bit later. Um, so you can see with Week of Impact, we talked about the hours as well as of the kickoff, as well as the agencies involved, the number of people impacted. We used percentages, we used numbers. Any store of statistic, you can mix and match. You don't really have to be super consistent in what topic you're covering. I mean, if it's all relevant, obviously, but if it's something like Week of Impact where you want to talk about the volunteers, you want to talk about the people impacted, you want to talk about the project itself, this is when you can show all of that information. And you can dive a little bit deeper into detail too. You can see the 13 people impacted for every volunteer. So instead of just leaving that statistic, we also included the statistic of how many volunteers and how many people impacted, because you want to show all of those really impressive numbers. So you don't have to just stick with one statistic. You can then break it down a little bit further to explain to people who might just look at the infographic, have no context, and they get all the information that they need. So that is an infographic. So we talk about social media. This is what the entire presentation is for. We talk about how to engage with people. And the biggest thing is that you want to be social on social media. People are still using social media to have a connection to the world, even though it's not in person, even though it's not face to face. People are still craving that personal interaction. Even though it's a big characteristic of those millennials and those Gen Zers, every single person in the world wants to make a connection. And if their only way or their best way that they feel most comfortable with is on social media, you want to make sure that you have that personal connection with them. So you want to engage them in a conversation. The way that you can do this is you can ask questions on post, and you can share really these thought-provoking ideas, something that you want feedback on, or that people aren't see that post. They might not engage with it. They might be that passive audience, but it still leaves an impression. It still resonates with them somehow. You can also utilize surveys, you can have direct chats, and you can have live streams. So that Ask Me Anything, that's a great way to be social on social media. With direct chats, that can be in the comment section or that can be private messaging. If you want to reach out to maybe someone shared a post and they had a really nice caption with it, then you can message them from your business page or personal, again, if you have those team members added, and just say, hey, thanks for sharing that. And have that conversation with them, growing that connection from them to your agency. You can also do surveys, so this is a great way to just get feedback and to have those active audience members engage with you, not as directly, but still engaging with your agency. And like I said, you can engage with them in the comment sections. So you can craft your response in advance. So if someone else is doing your social media, um, you can still have those crafted responses. So again, it's still that same voice, and it's giving them that immediate attention in the comment section, but in making that personal connection, but it's just consistent with your brand. A great way to do that is also using GIFs and emojis, just making it fun. I mean, you don't have to be so serious of, thank you for sharing this. I greatly appreciate it. Definitely do it, but be like, hey, that's awesome. Like, thanks for sharing that. And a fun GIF of someone dancing, anything like that. You want to make sure it's fun and engaging. And giving them a name to connect with is another way that you can do it. So if you have those added team members, if you want to put a face to your brand, this is how you can do it. It's definitely something I would encourage in the direct messaging. So when someone asks you a question, you can say, if Tyler asks you a question, you can say, hey, Tyler, thanks for reaching out. Answer the question and say, if you have any more questions, let me know, Bree. Because it is a person talking, it is not a robot, it's not a computer. It's people talking just online. That's all it is. Um, so you can see an example that Buffer, a program that I use, they are really great at putting those faces to their names, especially with their tech support, because they are run entirely online. And so they put those names next to their answers, whether it's just thank you or it's growing some sort of connection, or you can see just emojis are commented, and then they put that name and giving them a call to action. So I've talked about this in a couple different slides of how to make that passive audience active is giving them a call to action. Tell people what you want them to do. It's not going to be assumed by a lot of people when they see a post and maybe you're talking about, oh, like nonprofits are struggling with donations, or whatever you want. Someone might look at that and say, oh, yeah, they're struggling with donations. I hope someone donates to them. But if you say, we need your donation today to effectively run our agency, that is the call to action. Someone's going to see that. And then they'll read, further down of, oh gosh, all these nonprofits are struggling with donations. But because you gave them that call to action at the beginning of donate today, they're going to say, oh gosh, they're struggling. They asked me to donate. I can donate. I can help them. They took that call to action and they fulfilled it. So give them that call to action. Be very clear and um, give them all the information that they need with that call of action. This can be, with donations, like I just said, or it can just be having them want to share a post. So if you are running, whatever your goal is with social media, if you're running a campaign of fundraising or just getting more followers or getting more likes and engagement on your post, you can use a variety of ways to get that. Hy-Vee is really good at using this tactic of a giveaway, or a contest, or sharing a message that they will have a call to action of, like our page and share this post for your chance to win this cooler. That's an example of a giveaway that people will share that post. So they're sharing your message. If you attach, a fact or some sort of other visual with it, whatever message you want to spread with that giveaway, people are seeing both of those. They're engaging with the giveaway, but they see the message that you're spreading and they see your name because they're sharing a post from your agency, and they're also liking your page. So that's a great tactic that a giveaway can get you a call to action of sharing your posts, engaging with your posts, as well as liking your page. So another program that you can think about is social ambassadors. Remember when I talked about in the generations about how people will look at influencers and really trust them? They think that they're very authentic and they include them in their reference group. So this is a way to tap into that reference group by being an ambassador or creating an ambassador program. So it's not really about collecting your followers, it's about activating them. You can have that passive and active audience, and this is really how you can activate those still lingering passive people. A social ambassador is basically a digital army to spread your message, represent your brand, and bring supporters to your cause. So it really is that bridge from digital to reality. We talked about how you don't want to just do social media, you want to be social on social media. And when you have an ambassador program, it can be people supporting your cause or your program or agency online, but it's again putting that face to that cause. So it can be a success story, it can be a volunteer, it can be a board member, a donor. They're all ambassadors of your brand. And when people see that face on Facebook, for example, if they see, my name is Brianna and I volunteer with the uh, Brookings Backpack Project, that's putting my face with the Brookings Backpack Project, and people can ask me in person about my experience with that organization. And I am then an ambassador for that organization. So it can be organic or it can be intentional, and you don't really need a specific program or pay these individuals to be an ambassador. With organic, it's just like what I said. It's someone who has any experience volunteering or any interaction with an agency or a brand. Um, if I am telling people about that brand or that agency, then I am an ambassador. And I might not have been approached by someone who directly represents that agency, like a board member or a staff member, about being an ambassador, but still am an ambassador. Um, and then it can be intentional. So it can be a specific program. Um, a really good example of this is Ella, the clothing boutique in town. She does a ambassador program where it's women will come in and they'll try on clothing. They'll have, new merchandise, specific jewelry, anything like that. They will try it on. They will wear it in their apartment or wherever. They should take a photo with it. And then when they post on social media, they will follow the social media plan of posting at certain times on certain days that were given to them by Ella. They will use a specific caption, kind of reword it a little bit, but really use the same language that's consistent with that brand. Um, just because that's what people expect from that brand, like we talked about with consistent messaging. They will tag Ella, they'll tag the business, and they will use specific hashtags. They'll also use the hashtag ad because they are intentionally approached by the business to advertise their business's product. And that's just something to keep in mind. You have to have that disclaimer. People don't really mind if it is an ad. They are pretty quick to sniff it out, even if it doesn't say hashtag ad, but that's just a legal thing to say hashtag ad on that. Um, and what they do in return to incentivize, women participating in this ambassador program is that after they post on their social media, they don't really have to follow any guidelines of, gain specific likes or engagement or anything like that. I'm sure Ella tracks that, but it's not the burden of the ambassador in their program specifically. But that woman does get 10% off of her next purchase. So that is a structured, specific, intentional social ambassador program. You do not have to have that by any means. You don't have to have it that detailed or that structured. But those are just two examples of someone who you may have no idea who could be an ambassador, is an ambassador right now of your brand and your agency, promoting it and spreading your message. And that's when you want to make sure that your messaging is consistent, because you don't want someone being a quote unquote ambassador for your agency and spreading the wrong messages that you want to be promoting. And then there's also the other side of the spectrum of the intentional structured program. So those are social ambassadors. It's just something to keep in mind. Everyone who interacts with your brand is an ambassador in some way. So just making sure that you're activating the people who you are reaching, who are really involved, who are actively supporting your cause. So there are a lot of different resources that you can use when creating posts for social media. I've included just a few for templates and creating, really doing that graphic design. You can use Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign. This is a paid program that you get a subscription to, or you can buy the product. For an individual right now, it's about $60 a month. And so it's really, if you are committed to graphic design and you have someone who is trained in that program or who is training in that program, that's when you use Adobe. Otherwise, a great alternative is Canva. And I've said it a few times in this presentation, more and more people are using it. It's becoming very popular, very updated, and it works very similarly to an Adobe program. There's a free account and there's also a premium account. So you can, decide if you want more options on Canva. You can get that $10 a month subscription. I've included a screenshot in Canva in this slide. I will also, at the end of the presentation, go a little bit deeper into Canva just so you guys have that resource, but I'm just gonna switch past it right now. When you are looking at visuals, so Unsplash, Google Images are, and you can look up a couple, I think it's like Pixelate, or there's a couple different websites that you can use to find stock images that are royalty free, that you do not even have to give credit to the person. These are um, the websites that artists have taken a photo or created a graphic and put it on that website and basically said, this is for the world to use, for commercial use, and you can edit it. With Google Images, you can Google whatever you want, but just make sure in the search settings that you have for commercial use, and you have it be allowed to be edited. So then that narrows it down a ton, and you might not get the best quality of ones that you are searching for. So that's when you look on Unsplash, or even Canva has a huge library of visuals, but you can still use Google Images. For videos, if you're looking at stock video, you can go on iStock or you can go on Pixabay. YouTube has some if you just search on there. And it's tough to find good quality stock video that you don't have to pay for. You can definitely pay, $10 on some websites for a 30-second stock video. But it's just if you don't have the access or resources to create your own videos, but you want to do a voiceover, if you want to edit it in some way, you can use these online resources. For music, so for your videos, for any project that you're using that's going to be on social media, you can find it on YouTube Library. You can Google a couple different websites. YouTube Library is going to be the best bet for high quality, royalty-free music, and the largest database for that. All right, so you've got a lot of information in the past slides of how to target your market, who is your market, all the different things that you can do on social media, all the platforms you can be on, and it's really overwhelming. And once you try to work through each step, which is definitely how you should work through it, just one thing at a time, otherwise it's very easy to get overwhelmed in social media. And once you're done with that, you know who you're going to target, you know what you want to post, you know what platforms you want to use, but you have no idea what the next step is. Like, I can create something, but then what do I do with it? So this is when we just talk about how to plan, how to execute, how to evaluate, and repeating the process for social media. So how do I be effective at social media? First thing you want to do when you're planning your social media posts is you can set goals, as well as setting metrics. So it can be with goals, it can be awareness, so just brand awareness. It can be engagement, such as likes, shares, follows, anything like that. Driving traffic to either your page, or on Facebook, they have like an actual call to action button that you can have, visit website, contact us today, donate. Those are areas on social media that you can drive traffic to, and Facebook is an example with that call to action button, that when you boost a post, when you pay for an ad on Facebook, it can drive traffic to that specific button or that area. And it can also be, you want to gain more advocates, you want to gain more fans. So it's kind of with awareness, it's something that you can turn into numbers, but it's really just a general qualitative analysis, kind of with awareness. After you set your goals, so you can say, I want 5 new likes a week with 20 shares on our post total in a month, and I want a 5% more engagement on our social media, active engagement. Those are some goals that you can set. And then with those goals, you want to set out metrics. So you have your big goals, and then you have your metrics underneath each goal. This can be ongoing or it can be campaign focused. And what I mean by that is ongoing is you are always just looking at the general trends of your social media. Are you climbing upwards in your likes and your shares and whatever your general goals are? What is the ongoing trend? It can also be campaign focused. So this is for an event or a volunteer experience. For example, when you have a Facebook event, you create that Facebook event, you have specific posts for that Facebook event. You and in that event in general, you have the recap album that we talked about before with the millennials, the fear of missing out. And that is a campaign focus metric because all of these posts, all of these actions, all of this planning is just for one thing. It's just for one campaign, one event. So that is a campaign focus metric. And this can be divided into awareness, engagement, driving traffic, and advocates as well. So you have those big goals of, let's say, a big goal is I want 5 new shares on each week on our posts, just new people sharing our messages. And I want 20 people coming to this forum of Facebook event that I created. So those are your goals. Then you have your metrics with the shares and with the event. I want the shares, that is engagement. That's a specific call to action. And then with the event, that's a campaign focus metric of I want this many people invited to that event. I want this many people sharing our posts for that event. I want this many people reacting to our album for that event. And then reporting your findings at the end. So you have these goals, you have these metrics that you are constantly tracking, and then documenting if you made those goals, if you made those metrics, and all the processes that you took to make those goals and make those metrics. That's really important to just have constant documentation and record keeping on these social media campaigns that you use, especially if it's ongoing and nothing is going to be campaign focused. If you're just looking at general reporting, you want to make sure that you are tracking that reporting. And you can see a couple of these metrics. Facebook does it really well where you can, on your business page, at the top, you have the scheduling, posts, and everything like that. There's one section that says reporting or analytics, and you can click on that tab, and then it has all of the general ongoing analytics of your Facebook page. So it has different graphs and different statistics of this is when people are engaging on your posts, this is when people are visiting your web page, this is when people saw your video, this is how many likes you got on your page, anything like that. They lay it out all for you. The other platforms, you do have to do it manually, so that's when that record keeping is really important. So after you set your goals and your metrics, then you want to start actually planning your posts. So again, it's the same process of you plan, you execute, you evaluate. You always want to make sure you follow those 3 steps. So first is you plan your postings. So you can use this through a calendar, whether it's physical or digital. You can have some sort of project management program or social media planning platform that you use. You can use a notebook, whatever works best for you, the person who is doing the planning and the social media posting. You want to make sure that you plan it out. What I do is I plan out a month at a time. So I print out this just 1-page sheet of a general calendar of that month. I first look at all of the holidays. So like in July, there's 4th of July. I look at all of those federal holidays, those state holidays. Then I look at fun holidays. So in July, there's also, I think, National Hot Dog Day, National S'more Day, anything like that, those fun ones. I also include that. And then I post any other big things in our organization. So like if we have an event or if we have a quarterly meeting, anything like that, that is when I put it all on this 1-page calendar. Then I have some general ideas for each day that I put on, not really going into phrasing or hashtags or anything, just like if I want to ask a question today, or if I want to go on Instagram Live today, or anything like that, if I want to make sure this event gets launched at this time. That's what I put on just the 1-page calendar. After I do that calendar, then I start writing out the different posts that I want to do, and really looking at how often I'm posting on a platform each week. Then I also decide the times that I want to post and really going into that nitty gritty of what do I want my social media to look like? What colors am I using? What visuals am I using? Um, what is the voice, and drafting out every single post for a month. And you don't have to do a month if you don't want to. That's just the easiest for what works for me. You can do a week at a time, whatever works best. And then after I create that plan on the printout of the calendar, and then I have the listing of the posts, then I have this big desktop calendar that I pull down off my wall, and I actually write out, attaching the post with it, of what every single post will look like for that month. So then I look at this big desktop calendar that is open to anyone in the office, and they can look and say, okay, at 1 o'clock on Thursday, Twitter, like we're going to post this on Twitter. And then at 1:30, we're retweeting what so and so said, or looking at a retweet on this topic, anything like that. And then, any moment of any day, anyone in your office can look and see what your social media looks like. That is what I do for planning. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort and research, and it might not be for everyone. Um, so once you have those posts, then you have to figure out how you're going to post them. This is when scheduling comes in really handy. So you can use apps to remind or automatically post. Facebook, you can do that schedule of a post, or just drafts, and then they will automatically post it for you if you schedule it. You can also use different apps like Hootsuite, Buffer, or Tailwind, and these are ones that will post to some social media sites. Now, not every social media site allows you to automatically post to it. You may still have to manually post it. So some of these apps, what they do is you can create a draft of a post. So if it's an Instagram post, for an example, you can attach the photo that you want to post. You can attach the caption, any hashtags, anything like that. And then you set it for a reminder of 5 minutes before you would like it to be posted. So then it sends out that reminder to whatever other devices or numbers or accounts that it is set to. You get that reminder, you pull it up, the draft, you save that photo again to your laptop or your phone, you copy that caption, and then you go over to whatever platform you want to post on, and you uh, upload that photo and you paste that caption, and then you post it. So then it's posted at the same time that you want it. It was just manually done. So it's a little bit more work. So you got to do some research on what would work best for your agency to do that. And follow your schedule as best as possible, but always feel free to adjust based on weekly analytics. So if you are posting on Facebook, you're following your schedule that you created, a month ahead, and you think, gosh, this is really overwhelming to the audience. We are posting a lot. We're posting consistently, but we've noticed our numbers are kind of dwindling because people are a little tired of hearing from one company all the time. If you're scrolling on whatever social media platform you're on, and you see the same name popping up, whether it's a friend, a family member, or a business, it can just get a little tiring. So that's when you want to feel free to adjust however you see fit. And the biggest thing that I want to talk about is understanding your time and capacity. This is most likely not your only job. Even if you have a volunteer doing it, they might not have the experience and resources to have this be the only thing that they are doing for your agency. And so you may have this great plan. You may spend hours creating it each month, or however often you do it. You might be following everything consistently, and then something happens and you have to switch gears, and you can't even focus on social media for a week because you are so um, busy handling whatever else you need to do. So know that that's okay. These major corporations and these major names that you are looking at that have these great social media pages is because they have a team of social media people working on this. They have a social media director, they have a person for every platform, they have multiple interns under each of these people, and they still have volunteers. So do not feel bad if you just can't do the full planning that I have been talking about in this presentation. I do not recommend it to anyone unless you really can take on every single step with a volunteer or a team, whether it's your board or interns or anything like that. Just do as much as you can. I'm presenting you with all of this information, more information than you probably will need, because then you can decide what you really want and what you need. We just have a couple slides left. And when I talk about, I want this post on at 1 p.m. on Thursday, and you're like, how did you decide that? You decide it through a couple different ways. So really knowing your platforms and when to post, and you can do as much research as you want on this topic, but a lot of it is trial and error. You can look at post insights for specific pages, as well as use general guides to start. So this image that I have on here on the slide is a really general image of um, some general statistics that when people are on Facebook, they're mainly on Facebook from 3 to 4 p.m. on Wednesdays, 1 to 4 on Thursdays and Fridays, and around noon to 1 on weekends. So these are prime time to engage your audience, but this is general. It might be completely different for your page. So that's when on Facebook, you can see that for the reports. And then on the other social media platforms, since you're doing that record keeping and that evaluating, like I talked about earlier, that's when you can see the trends of, okay, I posted at 5 p.m. on Wednesday and that got a ton of likes. So then you can see, was it the time? Was it the post itself? Anything like that? Or maybe, you had a lot of people share that because you told them to share it, anything like that. Um, and so it can still be numerous reasons, but timing is where you can find out from trial and error of I posted at 5 p.m. that got a lot of engagement. I posted the next week at 5 p.m. got a lot of engagement. Posted the next weekend at 3 p.m. no one looked at it. So that's when you know, okay, 5 p.m. is when I need to post on Wednesdays. So use the general guides to start so you don't start with nothing, and then you can figure out what's best for your page. You can use apps like Buffer to schedule posts, like I talked about earlier. Facebook scheduling posts, it can cross post. So, since Facebook and Instagram are owned by the same company, you can post the same thing at once on both of those platforms. It's just an option. Really, it's a click, I think, when you post on Instagram or when you post on Facebook that it says cross post or post to Instagram. You can click that, you can connect it to your account, and then you have that decision every time you post on a platform to also cross post at the same time the exact same post on both platforms. Now, I wouldn't do this too often because you want to have different content or different versions of the same content on all of your platforms. So, for example, if you were sharing an article or a blog post that you created, have um, a short synopsis of what the blog is or whatever you're sharing on Facebook, because you can have a little bit longer of a post on Facebook than on Instagram, as well as maybe drawing a quote from the article. And then if you post it on Instagram, make sure it's a different quote and you're hitting another topic that's touched on in that article. So then it gives a reason for people to share, for people to follow you on Instagram and Facebook. They're not looking at the exact same thing on both platforms. They're engaging with your brand in two different ways, but it might be on the same topic. And that's just having unique content on different platforms. So it can be the same content, just kind of mix it up a little on both of them. So knowing your platforms, there's LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I had that list before. Google Plus is gone now, but if you used that before, just know that it's gone. A lot of Google's social media platforms are phasing out. Google Hangout, I think, is phasing out. Google Video, or something like that. Google Video Plus is phasing out. So just know that you might be on there, or if you have been on there, they are phasing out. There's also Tumblr, Pinterest, Snapchat, YouTube, any of those. So that's just another list of platforms, just so you have a list to look at again. And utilize all the resources. So I talked about some of the features on the different social media platforms. This is just a couple more. So slideshow, Facebook banners. So when you have a Facebook banner on top on your organization page, it doesn't have to be just one photo. It can be a video, it can be a photo, and it can be a slideshow as well that people can click through. And that's when it's really cool to target all of the audiences that you're looking at. So if you want to target, if you're targeting donors, other nonprofits, and people who participate in your programs with your Facebook page, you can have those separate messages on a Facebook banner. Because when I visit someone's Facebook page, I'll see the banner and I'll see that there's a little arrow. So that tells me as the user of that social media platform that there are more photos and I can click through. So the first message, the first picture might only be relevant to donors, and maybe I'm looking at you as a someone who wants to sign up for your program. So I see that and I say, oh yeah, okay, cool. I swipe through. Oh, that message is for volunteers, and then I swipe through it, and it's a message and a picture directly relevant to me. And I say, oh yes, I'm at the right place. I connect with that message, I connect with that brand, and then I scroll down further. There's also Facebook ads. So if you want to pay for social media, it's a great way to boost posts, boost events, anything you want for whatever goals or metrics you have. You can use Facebook ads. They're really cheap. Um, it's like $5 a day, really, is all you need. There's Instagram stories, there's job postings. Job postings can be on LinkedIn. It can also be volunteer postings or board postings. They can also be on Facebook. And I know a couple other social media platforms are in the works of creating jobs or job explore pages, but those are the ones that are being most used right now. And there's just a quote at the top that says LinkedIn is for people you know, Facebook is for people who you used to know, and Twitter is for people you want to know. So that is just something to keep in mind, again, of knowing your platforms and when to post, of making sure that you are meeting the people where they are at, marketing to the right audience. Is that it is crucial to showing off your brand and promoting and recruiting, but it's not the only thing that you should focus on. So even though we spent the past hour or so talking about social media, know that it's just an ingredient. It's not the entree, what everyone should be consuming of your brand. With media marketing, that includes all digital marketing, so not just social media. But social media can build relationships. So just know you can focus on websites, blogs, newsletters, email marketing, web design, anything like that, online retail stores, or mobile marketing, um, to get your message across and to really reach your full audience. A couple other media marketing options that I just briefly introduce here are blogs and newsletters. So that can be, on your website, it can be through email, it can be branded or posted on your social media as well. These can have big ideas that go into detail. So like how we talked about social media being brief, this is when you can go into those deeper details of certain topics. You can provide more information through this type of media marketing. Also, remember that you do have a website, or if you don't, you should really get a website because, for one, if you don't have a website and it doesn't look good, people do not have the best impression of your agency. And it also just adds to that legitimacy of the agency and of the work that you do. There's plenty of sites out there that let you have and maintain a great looking free website. You may just need to look at buying the domain or hosting it, and that's pretty minimal. Sometimes it's $10 a year. So just make sure that you have a really good website and you have fresh and dynamic content that's updated often. So you don't want stuff that hasn't been updated in a year or even 6 months that now would not be relevant to the messages that you are trying to get across, the programs that you are now running, whatever the call to action is that you're focusing on. Like if you need donors, if you're doing a fundraising campaign, or if you really need volunteers, or you're starting a new program, just make sure that it's updated content. And also look at search engine optimization, which is what SEO means, and that goes with Google Analytics, which you can get certified in, and that basically makes sure that all of your web pages or hits that you are on online about your agency appears at the top when someone searches certain keywords. So really looking at the taglines and everything of when you post something on social media or when you put something on a website, on the back end of a website, it talks about tag words, anything like that. And so those are just a couple of brief ideas that it's just about media marketing. We focus a lot on social media, but you can also look at those other avenues. And that is social media. So thank you so much, guys, for hanging in there. It's a lot of information. It really is. And if you are overwhelmed, you are not alone. Even people that do this as a full-time job are overwhelmed because social media and technology is constantly changing. Algorithms are constantly being updated. New platforms are coming out. They're changing features. They're changing um, how their platform is run, the optimization of it. So if you are overwhelmed, know that everyone else around you is overwhelmed as well, and we are all just trying to work through it together. This presentation was just to dive a little deep into all the different areas of social media. You can definitely spend an hour on each of these topics that I talked about, and so that's why it's just a lot of information being thrown at you at once. If you have any additional questions, here's my contact information. I, again, am the executive assistant of the Brookings Area United Way. So you can search United Way and you can find me. You can call the office. There's my email right there. Follow us on all of our social media at SDBAUW and let me know comments about this presentation, anything that you have found helpful with social media or best tips and tricks that you'd like me to share with everyone else. And if you want any more information about certain aspects of social media or media marketing, I'm always willing to make presentations or to formulate some sort of packet of different resources that we can use as a nonprofit community together. So thank you very much, everyone. And just like I said, I am always willing to make any research packets or any other resources that you think would be relevant and important to your nonprofit. Heidi and I are really interested at wondering what information you guys need. Is it looking more into fundraising, into grants and events, volunteer recruitment, engagement? It could just be communication, organization, anything like that. Please let us know because we want to make sure that you guys are fully equipped to be the best nonprofit that you can be. And that is what United Way is for. United Way is not just a fundraiser. We are the nonprofit philanthropy marketplace that has all of these resources from worldwide connections to make sure that we share with our affinity groups. We also want to make sure that the information is getting out to you. So since you are our audience, I'm asking for some feedback here. Please let me know if you get information through email, if you would like an in-person workshop, a webinar, a narrated PowerPoint just like this. We want to make sure that we get the information that is relevant to you and also make sure that it's convenient for you to get that information. We're looking at later when we launch our volunteer website or our new website to have a page that can act as a nonprofit portal that will have updated information about funding applications, any mid-year reports, anything like that from being a United Way funded partner. And it will also have all of these links to these resources that we are starting to create. So this is the first one, social media, yay! We're starting. So let us know, email us, call us, call me, beat me if you want to reach me. Let us know about the resources and how we should get them to you. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm just including this quick video going over Canva. I talked about it in the narrative PowerPoint talking about social media, but just so you get a little bit of deeper dive, I'm going to spend maybe about 5 minutes going over Canva and what you can do. And then if you guys are really interested in more information, I can definitely do a new workshop or a new presentation about Canva specifically. So when I talk about Canva, this is the website that I'm referring to. I'm logged in right now. We are just on a free account. You can definitely see over here that you can upgrade it, and there's different plans that you can do for different features that you want for nonprofits. So it's definitely a cheaper option than using Adobe products. However, I've had no problem just using the free account, so that is what I am on right now. So when you go to Canva and you log in, you can have templates or you can start with a blank design. These templates are so helpful. You can search if you know exactly what you want to post, or if you have custom dimensions, you can do any of these options to do a blank post, or you can just kind of scroll through these designs right here. So when I talked about visual optimization, and Canva has these templates. This is what I'm talking about. So when you hover over a business card, for example, it's 3.5 by 2 inches. Social media is 800, and this is just a general social media post, so this would be best for Facebook, is 800 by 800 pixels. So you can see that there are different dimensions, whether it's going to be print, that's usually in inches, centimeters, millimeters, anything like that. And then anything online is going to be in pixels, px. And you can see the different optimizations as I scroll through here, and it just shows up underneath. Here's a flyer that's print, and here's a Facebook post that's pixelated. So those are how you optimize. So once you click something, so let's say I want to make a Facebook post. It's going to pull up in another tab, and it'll give me a blank design. And what's really helpful is it will always say this is for a Facebook post. Now, if you want to remember that's for a Facebook post, once you start entering this title, you do have to say what it is, and then you can say bake sale. So since I saw this bake sale template over here. So this is the blank template that you are going to get. What you can do now, if you have no idea how you want to design it, is you can scroll through these templates right here on the sidebar. And these are just different options that you can choose from if you have a general idea and you just need a little help to get started in designing. It's really helpful for those people who have no design experience at all. So since I said bake sale, here's a bake sale right now. Or I can search bake sale and look at all these great templates that pop up. So you can choose, do I want a graphic, this is all graphic, or do I want a photo like this? You can choose which one was best, whether, and reference what your style is of your brand, as well as just some personal preference. I mean, you can see which one is going to be more engaging. So let's say that I want a photo. So I'm going to click this one. And there you go. Now you can start editing it to make it more relevant to your brand. One thing that I want to point out is in photos, so you can see that this one has a watermark, which Canva definitely has. They will use special photos, rarely free photos, in their templates because they want you to buy their photos. What you can do is you can just click over here, and these are all free photos. You can see it right here in the corner that they're free. There are some photos that are not free, and let's see if I can find one. Let's do bake sale. And this is where that premium, if you buy a subscription, it comes in handy. All right, here you go. So you can see without me hovering over it, right to the left of my cursor, it has that little dollar sign. So that means it's a premium photo, and it pops up when I hover over it. So you can see this image can be purchased for only $1. So if you really want that image, you can't find it anywhere else. You can't find it on Unsplash, Google Images, anything, you want that photo, you can buy it for $1, and it's just through a credit card, PayPal, whatever system they have. However, you can also just find free photos like this, and you can click it, and then it will pop up, or I'm going to delete that. You can click and drag, hover over, okay, so that fills that exact same spot, and then you double click it, and then you can just slide it to whatever you want it to show. So I'm trying to figure out how I want this to look. So there you go. So then there's an option, or if you want to drag this one might look better. There you go. And that's an automatic crop. And then you just slide it to whatever you want it to look like. Canva also has elements, so icons, shapes, graphics, charts, anything that you can imagine, Canva has that. You can just scroll down and see whatever you want. They have illustrations, they have, again, things you can buy, you can see how much it is, or just free, and you can always search whatever you want up here. For text, that's the next option. You can just have, if you just want to type something out and you are not worrying about the font right now, you just want all the information on the post, you can click one of these three options and it'll just appear in the middle, and you can type up anything you want, and then you can drag it and you can change the font over here, font size, color, all of that. I'm going to delete that. If you want to have more than one font, you know that you're going to have 3 bits of information and you don't want the same font, because you should always use about 2 to 3 fonts per design. Canva does this awesome thing where it groups different fonts together. So if you have no idea what fonts look best together, Canva did that for you. You can see that this is all grouped together because it's off of a template, and you can see these other templates over here. And all of these font templates are free. And to edit it, you just double click it, you can ungroup it, and you can edit it in any way you like. For the background, so that's the background of this graphic. So right now it's just a blank pink background, so you can change the color. Since I double clicked on the background, that popped up. I clicked on the little square icon of the color, and all of these colors popped up, or you can have a graphic. So if I just click that, that changes the background. Want to undo it, it goes back to the color. So these are the different backgrounds. You can also have any photo be a background. So if I go back to photos and I want, that's premium, let's say I want this to be a background, so I just click it so it appears, and then I drag it to the corner, drag it all the way out so it fully covers it. And let's see, there you go. So it automatically does it. It automatically registers it. And when you double click it, you just slide it just like we did with that first photo of how you want to crop it. So then you don't want a photo on top of a photo. You just delete that and then you can edit it however you like. So we can drag this over here and we're gonna have it be the photo. Oops. Sometimes it's a little tricky. Sometimes if it doesn't automatically do it, you just click position right here and you just say to the back and that makes it the background. So that's another option. And here for uploads, so you can upload any image you want. And then folders is the free account, I think, offers 3 folders right now. I don't really use them. I just go through the general um, photo library and file library. But if you want to use folders, which I can definitely see being handy in some cases, you can just organize all of your designs. With Canva, it does automatically change or save your designs. You can see these all changes saved. Sometimes it does say please wait, like changing, saving, whatever wording that they use. Just make sure you don't exit out until it says all changes saved because it will not save your design then, or it will use the last saved design. Um, Here's file, you can see show margins, anything like that, make a copy, download. Resize is so if you are working on an event and you want the flyer and then you want the Facebook post and you want the Facebook banner, anything like that, and you don't want to manually resize it and create different designs in each resolution or each size, you can buy the premium account and it will automatically resize for you. So that can save you time if you just don't want to mess around with it. You can also add a new page and it will just duplicate the background, but the rest will be blank if you're working on any document. You can also click this little link right, or this little button right here to copy the page and this to just add notes. So if someone else is creating this or you want to just keep in mind of information to put on or changes, you can just click this and you can add notes on the side. When you are ready, you can share it. So you can share the design for a collaboration, just like you're sharing a Google document or Google form, and you can download it if you want. And then over here, so it automatically publishes to Facebook if you link your account and you're working on a digital template. Otherwise, you can share it to any of these other linked platforms, email, Google Drive, anything. You can kind of just see. Canva also does print automatically for you if you want to pay for their printing. Otherwise, what I do is I just download it. When you download anything that's print, you can say download for print, download for digital. You can kind of choose. There's different options with every step that you're going to use, and it just takes a little bit to play around with it. But if I edit here, I will say it's going to be July 26th through the 28th. And it's going to be, let's do Micro Donuts because they are a new company in town and I absolutely love them. So I'm always going to put a pitch in for them. Let's say we're having I just want a sale. Exit. So just like that, easy peasy, I just made a Facebook post for Micro Donuts if they had a hypothetical sale. And that is a design on Canva. It automatically saved. So then if I exit out of here and I refresh this, because usually you would just exit out of this web page too. So then I just scroll down and right here we are having a bake sale. There it is. There is your Canva design. And that is how you use Canva.